Welcome to West USA Weekly, the podcast, your go-to source for everything real estate in Phoenix, Arizona. We're breaking down market trends, local insights, and the moves that matter most to Valley agents. Interviews, tips, and the latest from one of Arizona's top brokerages, all in one place. Let's dive in.
That is coming up today at 10 a.m. And I noticed that there wasn't a link or anything on here for this, but just go to your dashboard, go to the West USA calendar, and you get some more information on signing up for this. But this is just all about using AI and an avatar to create all your social media content. All right, ways to take title. All right, this Wednesday at November 19th from 2:30 to 3:30 here at the North Phoenix office. So we'll have Great American here. Just talk about title and how you take title to homes and what you should and what you shouldn't say to your clients and what type of advice. Ooh. Be very limited on the advice that you give them.
Yeah, unless you want to broker the whole thing.
Yeah. All right, Todd's got a 3 hours of contract law CE class coming up this Wednesday, virtual class. So make sure you get signed up for that. All right, Claudia made sure she emailed me. Want to make sure I put this on the announcements. But if you have not been to one of Claudia's short sale classes, you are truly missing out with the way that the market is going. And you never know what you're going to show up to when you go on a listing appointment. You may not get into short sales, but at the very least you need to know about short sales and who to turn them over to. All right, well, I've had a week of a lot of drinking, so I'm not giving blood today. So thank God it's not today,
It's
Nick.
not today.
All right,
you
so
got a couple weeks.
All right, so Monday, December 8th, we're doing a big blood drive here at the North Phoenix office. Go ahead and get signed up for it now. Just a tremendous way to give back during the holiday season. Shouldn't be limited to the holiday season, but this is your opportunity to give blood. But I'll tell you where we're not doing it at. We're not doing it at the Goodyear office.
Correct. Goodyear office is still under renovations. We did add a couple of slides this morning. We have our construction crew that are working 24/7, 365 on getting the building put together. So Janet did send over some updates. That's the new lobby that they're putting together. It's going to be way more open, brighter. Our big training room that's going in, that will be about the same size as our Scottsdale office training room. But as you can see, it is truly a floor-to-ceiling renovation. They are working very quickly, and we're close to starting the flooring, which will be a big step in the right direction. So we just wanted to share a couple of those images that's been the last 2 weeks. So it really has helped keeping people out of the office and just letting the crew work during the day and in the evening and not just limiting the few hours at night.
And do we have an ETA?
Yes.
Okay.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Yeah. Can I pull that off in this, my slide deck here? What's happening in the market? Silence. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Today, we're going over the Greater Phoenix Metropolitan Housing Statistics for the week ending November 17th. Let's see what happened. 78 days closed on market this past week, a month's supply of 5.45. Absorption rate was at 18.34. Average list price this past week, $759,961. Average sale price this past week, $594,951. And that brought the list price to sale price retention in at 97.41. Active inventory rose just a little bit to 26,095. Pending is sitting at 3811, and closed units month to date at 2552.
New listings taken this past week, quite a few less than last week, down 10%. 1,878 brings days on market for active to 92 and for closed at 78. Looking at the lower left-hand side price range, this includes all the inventory that's in MLS by price range, lets you know how many units in each category, what the days on market are. Any change, you'll see nothing negative this past week. There's no contraction in any price range. The percent of total inventory just to the left of that means that, say, for instance, in the first category, 0 to 199,000, that meant that particular price range represents 7% of the entire MLS. So that's how you would look at that and potentially benefit from it. If you have a client in any particular price range, this just whittles it down. But remember, I'm always telling you the numbers that matter are your numbers. So you do your price ranges in the markets that you do business in, and you'll even gain greater visibility and exposure from your consumers. 0 to 600,000 is 67.16% of the entire MLS. 600 to 1 million is 19.12%, and $1 million and up properties represented by 13.72%. So here's the spreadsheet. Obviously, we talk about this where everybody gets to be the expert. Why? Well, you have week over week, month over month, year over year, and same week last year. So it really gives us an opportunity, and it's like comparing anything, comparing listings, comparing properties that you're touring. This is no different. When you have the ability to compare, you're immediately the expert. You can always get different sets of numbers. You can have different interpretations of similar sets of numbers, but once you get this, it's pretty easy. So new listings taken, 1878, we're at 2,079. Look to the right. Last year, we were only at 1,761, and the year before at 1,618. So there's still more seller activity in the marketplace right now than there was last year. Looking at active inventory, 26,095, up just a hair. We had 22,516 last year, 16,000 the year before. So basically 15.9% more inventory. And the reason that you're seeing the list price the same period last year changing, when we first started representing this about 5-6 months ago, that was at 28%. And that was because that you're seeing the increase in inventory that started last year, this same period. So as that inventory grew to equal what it is today or come close to it, obviously the difference between year over year is going to shrink. 440 of that inventory is coming soon category, 19,608 single family non-distressed. We have 2,883 properties from new home construction in the MLS right now, 25,662 non-distressed, 98.3. There was a 2% change. So, I've always been talking 1.5. Well, we're at 1.7, so it's up over 1.5. And if you just look underneath the red box, you'll see short sales and foreclosures right now sitting at 213. These are the available properties in the MLS. Lender owned, which is bank owned, or REO, is sitting at 148, and HUD at 34. Taking a look at pending, 3,811. We use this to judge, the meeting of the minds, right? That you open escrow, it goes into one of these three categories. And so this means that a seller and a buyer, at least 3,811 of them right now, have come to a mutual understanding and an agreement that they want to enter into contract. So we use this to identify whether or not there are more buyers in the marketplace or fewer. Slide your eyes to the right. Obviously, we had a good week last week, but 3,251 the year before, and only 2,800 buyers in the marketplace the same week in 2023. So if you're looking at this, well, it's easy to say. There's 600 more buyers than there were last year in escrow at any one time, and there's almost 1,000 more than there was 2 years ago. Looking at closed inventory, 2,552. Last year, we were at 2,750, so we're lagging about 7.2%. That obviously should have been in a red color. Taking a look at the statistics. Now, these statistics at the bottom only represent the activity that's taken place in the last week. So in the last week, we had a 5.45% month supply. We were sitting at a median price of $450,000, down $9,995 from the prior period. Sliding your eyes over into the amber, because obviously to the left of that, there's a number missing. 442,445 was the median price back in 2023. So if you're seeing that being median price, if you take all the inventory that's together and you pick the very middle number, It's only gone up about $7,500 versus 2 years ago. So again, this is how you look at this and you say, yes, inventory price wise is not getting out of control because the median price, and this is what all the statistical people to pay attention to, hasn't moved that much. Looking at days on market, of course, 78 days, we're finally down into the 70s. That's where we really need to belong. And again, if we had more inventory and we had more buyers, we'd still be at a very similar number. Another thing, the list price to sale price retention for the last 3 weeks has stayed at about 97.4. That means that the average seller was discounting their property from the list price to the agreed purchase price was approximately 2.6%. So when you're building your contracts, this is ad nauseum now because I'm saying this all the time. When you're building your contract, you're packaging your buyer, before you can just put an offer in, you need to understand what the list price to sale price retention is in the neighborhood that you're putting the offer in at. And then also you need to look at the concessions tab to see how much the sellers are paying as average concession. So those are the numbers. Appreciate everybody.
All right, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Justin, what's going on?
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. All right. So rates did go up slightly last week.
Yay.
But now the government is back open. And so we should start to get some of the information that we need, like BLS jobs reports, things of that nature to, I believe, will help our interest rates. So what we're going to talk about today is Fannie Mae removed the hard 620 minimum credit score for conventional loans to run through the desktop underwriter. What does this actually mean for buyers, sellers, and agents? So, got multiple texts last week. Hey, there's no credit score requirement for a conventional loan now, and the 50-year mortgage. We still haven't seen any movement on the 50-year mortgage, but also along with that 50-year mortgage, portable loans they were talking about. So we'll be talking about that in the future, but let's move on with this. So what changed? Fannie Mae had eliminated the minimum credit score requirement of 620 in order to run through. DU stands for Fannie Mae, or desktop underwriter for Fannie Mae. It applies for all new case files after yesterday. So this is active as of today. Borrowers still must qualify with debt-to-income ratio, loan-to-value, reserves, income stability, credit history, patterns, derogatory late payments, foreclosures, bankruptcies. All that seasoning still applies. AUS stands for Automated Underwriting System. AUS underwriting systems findings rule the day if the DU says refer ineligible. It's not eligible as a standard conforming. What that means is we run our file through an automated underwriting system to see if we can get an approval. If there's no credit score, you're going to have a large down payment in order to get this. Even if you have let's say you have a 550 credit score, most likely you're going to have to be recovering from those derogatories. You're going to have to show at least a year positive credit history. You're going to have a large down payment in order for that risk management to say, yeah, this is good, along with some reserves. So you may not want to put all of your down payment in. You might want to keep it some of that in the bank to show that you have a few months of reserves. But a large down payment will get borrowers with low credit scores most likely.
Yeah, this is going to help Dean Becker a lot on his next purchase.
One thing, though, there's going to be lenders that have overlays. So like we were talking about last week about big box banks, most likely they're going to have a credit score overlay. When I was working at Chase, although Fannie Mae had a 620 minimum, Chase had a 640. So that's something to consider. Also, mortgage insurance is going to have their own rules. So if you have somebody with a 550 credit score and they did get an approval with 10% down, mortgage insurance most likely is not going to fund that. So that's something that we gotta consider there. Who benefits most? Thin file or no credit score borrowers, limited trade lines with strong income and assets. So even if you have a no credit score, we're still going to have at least one minimum trade line. or we're going to have to do what's called a VOR, verification of rent on where you use. That's a non-traditional line of basically credit that we're adding to your file. Below 620 borrowers with improving credit, compensating factors such as reserves. What we mean by reserves is months in the bank, months of payments, PITIA in the bank. Low debt to income ratio, that's going to help them. First-time homebuyers and credit visible populations, consistent rent, utility payments. That's what I was talking about the VOR for verification of rent. Utility payment histories is helpful. So if you're renting somewhere and you're paying utilities, that will help us use those. So for you all, more buyers can qualify conventionally, especially credit invisible or rebuilding profiles. Speed, DU approvals may reduce friction versus manual or tougher paths. So in the past, we could take these buyers that weren't getting an approved eligible through that automated underwriting system, and we could do a manual underwrite on them to try to get them through. Now we should be able to get an approved eligible on those, which means there's probably going to be less manual approvals. Pricing. So LLPA stands for loan level pricing adjusters, which is how we consider what your interest rate is. Those are still going to reflect risk. So those aren't going away with this approval. Rate in MI or PMI could be higher for riskier files, even if it's eligible. Prep buyers, budget for reserves and gather positive payment data like rent and utilities to strengthen the file. Compliance and reality checks. This is Fannie Mae only, not a promise of approval. Overlays, some lenders are still going to have overlays. PMI providers may require minimum credit scores still. So there's typically the PMI will come in later. I'm sure somebody's going to insure it, but it's probably going to cost a significant amount of money to get into those. That's why I would suggest 20% down if you don't have qualifying scores. Documentation still matters. So income, assets, employment, credit history verifications. Always subject to the Fannie Mae selling guide, automated underwriting system findings, and PMI approval where applicable. So it is out there. Just keep in mind that it's probably going to be a small percentage of buyers that don't have that minimum credit score that qualifies. So really what it comes down to, and I say this all the time, money or cash in the bank is always very helpful, and that typically can solve a lot of the issues on getting qualified.
So the average agent, when they're talking to their client, doesn't really have to have an in-depth conversation about this at all. This is just something.
Send them over.
This is just something where it's business as normal, but they need to realize what you're going to be putting them through.
Yeah, and now we're not sending out a minimum credit score to qualify as 620 on these guys. Let's take a look.
Yeah, so just be careful on getting your clients excited. Yeah. Don't make any promises.
That's right. There. That's a big deal. Yeah. A lot of people, when they saw the minimum credit score of 620, they were getting people excited. Hey, it's a 620. No, it's not the same as FHA. FHA is really forgiving when it comes to credit history. Conventional, not so much.
All right. Appreciate
Thanks,
it,
guys.
Justin. Good
Appreciate
stuff, man.
You guys.
Thank you.
All right, so I was just kind of messing around and went on our National Association of Realtors website, kind of looking at what are some of the common themes of buyers over the last year and so forth. So I came up with just 3 highlights that I thought that just really stood out to me, and just wanted to have an open dialogue about it. There's not necessarily there's a takeaway in perception and maybe a marketing strategy and conversation strategy and so forth, but nothing too specific. But the first one I found this staggering, because so many of us have spent so much time focusing on first-time buyers, and especially with the younger millennials and the Gen Zers coming into the marketplace, and a lot of people said, "Hey, I'm going to start focusing, going on TikTok and Instagram and really focusing on this market for first-time home buyers." But we're finding that there's not as many first-time home buyers in the marketplace as there used to be. So now first-time home buyers now only account for 21% of the market, which is the lowest level since tracking began in 1981. So for me, it says I've got a lot of effort and doing a lot of marketing and focusing on first-time home buyers. And maybe not to say that I need to get away from that, but it could be one of the reasons why maybe business is a little bit slow. And Nick, you've mentioned this the last couple of weeks, and I found, and I believed you, but I didn't. Trust and verify.
I understand.
Yeah.
100%.
But the median age for first-time home buyers is 40 years old.
Yeah.
I was 28, I think, when I bought my first home. I mean, that is staggering to me, Todd.
You know, I love statistics, as everybody knows, and everybody's meeting now at the NAR convention, and so there's a lot more data coming right now from people that are in attendance, and they're posting about it, and then also just from NAR in itself. And Lawrence Yun, over the last couple of weeks, has had a couple of really important not only predictions about what's taking place, but then he mentioned he mentioned the home seller and home buyer report that recently came out. And that's where these statistics come from. And you can go online to NAR and you can download what they call the highlight copy for free. Or you can pay, I don't know, some minuscule amount, 15, 20, 30 bucks for the report. But these are the kinds of things that matter, because what it's saying here is you could put all your money into the first-time home buyer and you're only talking to 21% of the entire purchase history, the potential buyer pool, right? And so that might not be your forte. It doesn't mean don't talk or don't have, but what happens if there's another segment that was 33%? And so as a result, wouldn't you want to put a little more money into the 33%? Then again, there's that old-fashioned saying that you go from first-time home buyers. They also talked about move-up buyers, which actually the move-up buyer median age on the move-up buyer was 60 years old. And I'm just like, that's super high. It used to be 45, 47. So, we look at all these different things and we have to take away something from them. It's not negative. It's just the reality.
The way it is. Yeah,
it's just reality.
Yeah, and so for me, Nick, I look at this and I'm thinking, when I'm now looking at the group that are, let's just call them in their 30s, there are more 30-year-olds renting than I would have anticipated, and this might be a market that I might figure out some marketing strategies, and where are 30-plus-year-olds? Are they on the TikTok and Instagram? That's how old am I? The TikTok. Sound like my mom. The COVID.
Yeah. Well, they're not on the TikTok. And again, just to remind everybody, as we always do, the NAR's national. Arizona, Phoenix are going to have a little bit different metrics there. They're going to skew probably a little bit younger, just because of our cost of living here in Arizona is a little bit better than other places, but it's pretty staggering. 40 is what the number is consistently. So what does that conversation look like? Are you looking at talking to more renters then? Because maybe the 30-year-olds that are renting don't understand what it takes to get into a mortgage. Maybe they've gotten pretty frustrated because of the media that they've been reading, because COVID knocked them out. I mean, the joke with the millennial is I've seen every 3 to 5 years an unprecedented thing happens since the 80s. And that's just kind of what my generation is used to. There's a lot of frustration and a lot of people that are just like, you know what, I'm not even going to try anymore. The conversations that I'm having with people are focusing on the lender conversation. Have you spoken to a lender? Do you even know what it looks like to get in a home? And a lot of times they haven't, just because they've been so frustrated by it. That's the conversation is, are you renting now? Have you talked to a lender to see what it looks like to buy a home? That, I think, is what moves the needle for a lot of those 30-year-olds that have been renting for a long time and just feel like that's all they can do.
And and to combine the two of your stories together, if your primary focus has been going after that younger market and you're on TikTok, and that seems to be the place you're doing a majority of your marketing. Even if you switched that to having conversations in those TikToks about people that are in a move-up buyer scenario, you're still missing the boat, because that's not where 60-year-old people are. They're over on Facebook or Instagram.
So where you go? The bingo hall.
Yeah, the bingo hall. Yeah. Bunko, I think, is the new term.
Okay. All right, cash buyers. I love cash buyers. Cash buyers are my favorite.
This is easy.
But according to NAR, all cash purchases reached a record average of 26% of home sales. I don't know, to Nick's point, I don't know what that number is specifically in Arizona. but 1 in 4 people are intending to buy their house with cash. And then we looked at the medium home down payments are usually high, which I found interesting. I was expecting a lot more people more focused on the 3.5 to 5% down, but this helps me change my strategies a little bit, because if 1 in 4 are paying cash, we're going to have some strong conversations about leveraging, but we're also going to have some really strong conversations. You should be, if you're paying cash in this market and a house has been on the market for 50, 60 days, you should be negotiating a really good price for your buyers, because not the downside, but on the flip side with all cash, you're not really going after as much concessions because there's no lender fees involved.
Right. Yeah, here's what happens. This is the second time this has happened in my tenure. So in 34 years, this is the second time I've seen this. First time was in the late 90s, and why it happened is the same reason why it's happening today. The median age of the move-up buyer has moved up, and it went from 45 to 60. It also went from 45 to 57 42 to 57, I think it was, back in the 90s. So what's happening is the people that are 60 years old, they're retiring. They've got savings. They've built and bought 10 or 5 houses in their lifetime. And so the equity that they've received are now allowing them to buy their retirement home, if you want to call it that, for cash. And the irony here is it's not just that low-end Sun City property you can buy for $275,000, though keep that in mind, because that's what's triggering this number to be so high, is the fact that those smaller expensive homes are still closing, and it's one sale, whether it was $800,000 or $275,000. So it factors into the equation that way as far as cash sales are concerned.
And I think we're still seeing a little bit of the holdover from the COVID time, where people were able to work remotely in a different state.
So you called it the COVID, so I appreciate that.
Well, it's the COVID time. COVID time is different than the COVID time.
I'm just saying
I'm adding those two. I got a card yesterday that said I'm old. We're the same age, buddy. If I lived in a different state, California, Washington, New York, the cost of living is quadruple the amount for the Floridas, the Texas, the Arizonas. So I'm able to take that high-paying job, sell the home that I'm in that state, and then I'm being able to buy double the house in Arizona for almost cash. So you're seeing a lot of that as well. But Todd hit it on the head. You've got your, with all due respect, boomer buyer, boomer seller that was able to buy their home in the 80s for 15 cents and a piece of gum, and now they've built up all the equity and they're able to roll that into a cash purchase.
And so, Todd, what this is also saying to me is pretty much on average, all buyers are putting 19% down. 10% down for first time, 23% down for repeat buyers. So this is telling me, for those that aren't all cash, that monthly payment, is something that is incredibly important, because generally, if FHA, I'm telling people, let's go 3.5%, or conventional, let's go 5% down. So there's more factors in play here. And so now I'm definitely going to leverage these conversations about, in these situations where we're getting financing, we are going to go after seller concessions. And if you are concerned about rate and you are concerned about payment, we're going to get you even a lower rate in payment.
So this is why I started the number one with the home seller home buyer report at NAR, and you need to download it. You really need to buy it, because in the purchase one, it gives you charts and graphs that show you what percentage of the age demographic is putting those numbers down. And unfortunately, the highlight version doesn't do that. So if you grab the information from the highlight, where although this is what it said, we don't know. Well, we do know. We just have to go to the report to find out exactly what age bracket did it.
But I think it goes back to our conversation last week. The monthly payment is a huge
it's always
deal.
Been. It really
it
always
is, but
has
it's a conversation happening now with interest rates changing. It doesn't matter the interest rate. I need my payment to be X, so we got to put more down.
Yeah, you can. Again, I'm just going to lead out or end this conversation from my perspective with, you tell me what it was like when I bought my first house, and granted, I paid less, but I also paid 17% interest. So you tell me how that didn't affect my bottom line, my budget, my money, my spending style, but yet it was smart to own the home versus spend that money elsewhere.
All right, and so there's just been all this talk, and everybody's like, oh, God, AI is going to put us out of business, and Zillow is going to put us out of business, and we're all going out of business, and nobody's going to use real estate agents anymore. This is staggering to me. These numbers are higher than if you had to just said guess. Like, I would have come in lower, but
I'm not sure I would have come in any
yeah,
lower
but
either,
agents,
higher either.
people are still using agents. 88% of buyers are using real estate agents, and 91% of sellers are using real estate agents. They're seeing the value. We're obviously are able to present our value, and that is my key takeaway from this: being able to present value.
Yeah. I'm just going to go back to probably May of what year did we switch? Last year. So
1945.
1945. Yeah, last year in May. Because back then, when everybody was all in this sensationalistic perspective of you need to redevelop your value proposition so that buyers now want to pay you. And then I kept saying, well, it's not like on August 17th, everybody got a 5G, wave sent out that erased their memory bank about, what a realtor value proposition was. So, in essence, real estate agents, the consumers never not been in a perspective. I think what happened is the market adapted appropriately to helping a buyer understand what those changes meant to them, and then teaching the buyer the new documentation that we had, such as the seller compensation agreement, that allowed a negotiation to take place that would help reduce their total costs of purchasing the home. And I don't think they knew that. And they were just then going out, maybe in the beginning by themselves, thinking they could do it without a realtor. And those were the headaches they were hitting.
Yeah.
So I think we all did a really good job of adapting to the true value issue, which was now the buyers are responsible for paying it. So how do we help them navigate that?
I'm going to go back to the COVID time. In 2018, 2019, all we heard about was that the iBuyer was going to take over and that real estate agents were going to become like travel agents. We were going to be the way of the dodo. And COVID hit, and then we saw the biggest influx of iBuyers flipping upside down, lack of conversations, no consumers, to realtors being as busy as they've ever been, especially in Phoenix, Arizona. We have the best market we've ever seen in 2020. And so it just proved that point that your value prop, what you're going to do is important to get more business. But as consumers, we feel like we need a professional in our corner when we're doing a large purchase like buying a home. Yeah, there's still FSBOs, et cetera. But for the most part, people want someone that's going to back them and help them through this really complicated, scary process. And so the last 5 years, we've just seen that grow and grow and grow. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. Yeah.
I am here today to just bring comfort and peace to everybody. That is my job. That is my role today, Nick.
That's scary, Mikey.
I bring the comfort and the peace. Good. All righty. Well, that is our 3-pack for the day. And yeah, Todd, just if we go on the National Association of Realtors website, where are we specifically finding this report?
If you go to the tabs at the very top, you'll find the words research and click on research, and then you'll be able to click on the reports.
Okay. There you go. All righty. Well, I am excited to bring in Jonathan with RYS Development. This is, Todd, becoming a thing. One of the things that people will tell you about the Phoenix metropolitan area is there is an incredible lack in ADUs, or what we like to refer to as Casitas. And a lot of people are going out and building Casitas. There's been some leniency in the restrictions from cities that are allowing more and more people to buy or to build an ADU. And there's a lot of companies now going out there and doing this and partnering with real estate agents. And so for us, we've reached out and we started building development or a relationship with Jonathan from RYS. And the best part about it, and we'll get to it at the end of the presentation. His phone number is going to be at the end of the presentation, but we are in a position now to be able to receive, and we don't want to call it a referral fee because agents get all worked up about referral fees, but we're calling it an introduction fee. And so if you have a client and you introduce them to RYS Development and they secure financing for an ADU, and I've already had a long conversation with Dwayne about it, you're in a position to get paid. So with that, Jonathan, welcome, and I'll hand this over to you, Just press the down arrow button when you want to go to the next slide. But welcome, and tell us a little bit about RYS Development and what we're doing here.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You got to get real close to the microphone.
Got it.
Yeah.
Here. Is that better?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I mean, to your point, every time I come in here, I learn something new. So I love listening to you guys first. But yeah, we're just here to solve issues. We're here to solve problems. You know, affordable housing for one. Obviously, it's getting worse and worse. If we're, the average age for first-time home buyers creeping up there. So this is just a solution to one of our problems, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we got started actually this year. My background is in construction. I started with the real estate developer last year and just really got to know everything about it. I fell in love with it. And, man, my passion's here. My passion lies with real estate. I'm here for the long haul with you guys. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so like we said, there's a huge need for these out there, and I hadn't had a chance to go into the details on your slides, but there's just I felt like a couple years ago it was almost impossible to build an ADU in Phoenix. You had to hide the water areas, the kitchens, and so forth, build it, and then go in there and so forth. But talk a little bit about the need and what you're seeing out there, and who are good candidates for this.
So you're right. There was a lot of red tape until let's say probably about last year. Now it's getting a little bit easier. But I think there's a huge need for all kinds of people out there for generational living. People that can't afford to like you said, buy their own first time property. People like older, senior citizens, for example. I know like senior living facilities could be hundreds of thousands of dollars to move into. So there's many different ways, from at-home businesses to gyms, to pool houses, like you name it. And then, there's all kinds of benefits. Obviously, you get back for getting it. But the most qualified people, in my opinion, if you have a lot over 6,000 square foot, if you have equity in your home, it's like you were telling you, just reach out, just find out, a 5-minute conversation, you never know. You can change a lot for you.
All right, so what do we got? What's on the next slide here?
All right,
Or
so
do you want me to handle? Okay.
I got it right here. All right, so basically, we just want you guys to feel comfortable with choosing RYS. We kind of walk you through it, hold your hand, if you will. We kind of tailor make it so you tell me what you're looking for. We tell you, what your prospects are, what your options are. We want this best to suit your needs. We like to build everything that's ADA compliant with the showers. If they have the metal grab bars, there's no metal lips on the floor. We take all this in consideration, obviously. So we want it to be fully functional, but we also want it to be, look aesthetic as well. So we handle everything. If you guys don't know anything from A to Z, you come to me. We'll help you find, obviously, Mr. Frederick over here, get some financing, and then we'll talk to you about your options once you're qualified. And then it's really, really easy. We handle everything from, the plans to getting permits to pulling everything all the way to certificate of occupancy. So really, you have nothing to lose just for reaching out.
So we've talked about, some of the key candidates for me. We already talked about generational housing. I was with some friends yesterday. We were looking at a home in McCormick Ranch, and we're just talking about, things going on with my father-in-law. It's a long story, and how my mother-in-law is going to probably end up living with us. And so I was having that discussion with some friends. She goes, maybe we should go look for something that's got a casita, because I'm going to be in the same boat. And then we went and looked at this home, and I'm like, oh, this is a huge lot. Like we could take care of business just on this particular property. But there's the generational housing. And then there's also that avenue of being able to turn something into an Airbnb, some additional income. For that family. And so there, and so for me, it's, I have people that have got big lots that would love to put in an ADU, and Justin can go through all the different financing options, but it's also a discussion that I'm having with buyers as we are looking, because there's loan programs where you can buy the property and then finance the ADU in with it.
To the original package, yeah. Yeah, I think this is big because, like you had mentioned, generational housing, this is where the terms came up originally. And they were attached properties, and they were, converting and then extending a little bit of a larger facility. But they were limited on things like kitchens, the requirements on kitchens. They were limited on a lot of different things. And then, of course, people said, well, I've got kids living at home. Okay, so the kids wanted their own space and kind of sometimes try to take over the parent space. So there's all these issues with familial as you get into those. But to Mike's point, then you have elderly parents or family, and that, to your point, you want to have a more affordable. Get this, when you go put somebody in a retirement community, they suck your income dry. That you sometimes have to sign your estate over to these people in some instances, to be able to have all those services. In this particular case, you also still own the property, and you get the tax deduction, and over and more and more and more. So, are people starting off in what you're seeing with detached, full-blown, meaning full-blown, with 100% containable properties, or are they doing just the attachments, where they're expanding those? What are you seeing in the market? And I mean, I know it depends on what the person needs, but just what is happening more than not in the market?
We're seeing a lot of people interested in just getting anything that's not detached or not attached currently. If that's not an option, we'll do attached as well, so we can work with the client. But it's a new time. It's a new frontier. We're excited. There's a lot of, this is brand new because there's a lot of programs that are still being created for first time, or for people basically to take advantage of this program too. We're seeing mostly just everybody that wants to do like businesses. They want side income. They want, long-term income. They want generational. So it's a combination of everything really. So I'm getting hit from all fronts here, but anybody that's looking to break into real estate, get some doors in the portfolio, I think this is the way to do it, especially because, if you're 40 years old and you're not even living in a primary, you're a first-time home buyer yet, like, you got to start somewhere. And I think this is a smart move for a lot of people. It just makes sense more. It's a lot more affordable. Yep. Okay. Next slide.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So, clients see the ADU as a flexible space that fits their style. Obviously, we're willing to work with everybody, as I mentioned, and they want it to be both functional, attractive, personal use, rental. Obviously, all kinds of different ways we can do this. We value comfort, privacy, natural light, so a little bit of function meets everything. And then just kind of like a brief analysis of the construction site, we proposed plenty of space. Like I said, minimum you want 6,000 square foot lot. The law here in Arizona, 75% of your primary is what you can basically allocate to use as a casita. So if you have a 2,000 square foot home, you can basically build a 1,500 foot if the area or the municipality you live in allows it.
And then there are some situations where certain municipalities, if your yard's big enough, you could even put in multiple ADUs in there if the equation and the percentages pan out.
As we're finding out, there's a lot more. Yeah, so zoning is a big one. You can get 2, sometimes 3 additionals on top of your primary, and then you can even rezone that, cut it in half, and get commercial on top of that. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to play this right now. Yeah. So let's keep moving real quick. All right. So construction timeline here, we're looking at 1 to 3 months. Basically, this is just kind of being very conservative, I want to say, just to get the design, everything submitted, get the permits done, and then basically get approved to get going. Once we're approved from the city, we come back, site preparation, 2 to 4 weeks, all the way. I'm going to say construction obviously is going to take another 90 days to 120 days to complete everything to get your certificate of occupancy. And then from there, we're ready to start again, rinse, repeat, or.
Well, one of the things that you and I discussed, I don't know, a couple months ago, was, okay, when I'm looking at a property and I'm taking buyers out, and I know there's no guarantees till that permit gets pulled, all right? And so there's always a risk. You never know. But if I'm looking at a property in Phoenix and I'm buying it with the intent to build an ADU, maybe extend that inspection period and give you guys enough time to do a little bit of preliminary work just to make sure that it can be done on this property. Almost like we do the same thing now with our home inspections. I don't even care what the home inspector says about the roof. We're just automatically having our roofing guy go out there and inspect the property. And so there's some preliminary work that you can do, and you can say, hey, these are going to be the potential hiccups, not a chance, and you know what, we're going to be able to pull this off and so forth.
Yeah, and just to kind of reiterate what we're talking about, we just go back to the city, maybe it takes a week tops to hear back, and we get a definitive yes, no, this is what you can do.
Sometimes, and this is a cautionary statement for real estate agents, you it's kind of like, well, I want a backyard big enough to put a pool in. And so consequently, you can put tiny pools or big pools, but here's the problem. You got to go to the city and look at what the lot looks like, because you could have a public utility easement, or you could have something on this dramatically huge lot that limits your ability to put something back there. So just in that train of thought, just don't go sell houses to people and tell them they can put an ADU in because the backyard's large enough, because maybe they can't.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. To your point, I had a client in Levine bought just under 1 acre, and he was dead in the water right there because you need a minimum of 1 acre.
So my favorite thing is when the solar guys come to my door. I have so much fun with them. And I feel bad because they're just salespeople. They really don't know what they're not the ones who are actually going to be selling the solar. And I always ask what my break-even point is. So if I buy solar from you and my utility bill goes down, but I've got a $30,000 loan, like how many years is it that I am actually benefiting from the solar? So in the same way with, and I know you're not a market expert, Todd, just more of understanding the market, but like at what point, if I spend $200,000 on an ADU and with property appreciation, this doesn't even count what I might be using it for additional income or whatever the case is, but at what point does it pay for itself?
That's a good question. There's a combination of factors to consider. Obviously, price per square foot of the area is a big one. What it's going to appraise at when it's completed, that's going to take a big effect. And then also, how big is the space? How many bedrooms? How much are you renting it for? All this will take in consideration. And basically, I do a little bit like of math. I know the average Airbnb, like a 2-bedroom, you get $50,000 to $80,000 a year, and that's after you pay your mortgage, your expenses, and stuff like that. So you break out it fairly quickly. And I can help any client that's interested in talking about that with me one-on-one. I'll be more than happy to.
So taking in a factor, I'm going to ask it a different way. Taking into the factors of construction costs, obviously slabs and probably still post-tension, probably maybe not, and all of the typical home amenities that have to go into that property to have it be certified as occupancy. The question that I have would be, are the average dollar per square foot construction costs, typically like up there in the custom $450 to $500 per square foot range? Or are they more reasonable? I don't know what reasonable means, but are they significantly less that would make it even that much more attractive?
Okay. We're actually priced pretty aggressively, I'd like to say. So depending on what part of town you're in, if you're obviously in like Prescott or, Flagstaff or something like that, you're going to pay a little bit higher of a premium just because of mobilization cost. But if you're inner city, where there's lots of construction around, lots of labor, that's going to be minuscule. I think we're highly competitive. It's going to be a lot less than if you were to buy like a tract home, for example. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, no, but yes, I was trying to get somebody to come to the realization that if they're living in a neighborhood and the average dollar per comp is, $420 a square foot, that doesn't mean that that's what the dollar per square foot for that ADU. That was my point.
Okay.
Because you led to it earlier, and I just kind of thought somebody might have grabbed onto that.
Yeah, I think Justin did actually touch on that briefly last time. He did mention that there's a formula, and he didn't give us the exact breakdown of how that formula works. But yeah, you're not going to get dollar for dollar.
Yeah.
So.
What's the next slide?
All right. So yeah, just as we're talking about return on investment opportunities, we got rental income, short-term, long-term, property value increase. Obviously, this boosted with the added square footage to your property. Multi-generational living is huge, not just for kids, but also elderly as well. And then obviously tax benefits. If you own a home-based business, this is really great for getting some sort of tax break, write-offs, grants, et cetera, low-interest financing costs, as well as appreciation. So lots of different ways to make money here. Lots of ways to get financed. Our guy, Justin, he's basically educating me, if you will, on all the different loan programs that are available. There's so many. So every situation is differently unique for everybody. So it's not one size fits all. But basically, if you want to come, if you're interested, if you have equity, if you have any type of yearning to figure out how you're going to do this, just give us a call and we'll walk you through the process. Super simple. But we do anything from hard money, home equity financing. We can even do a VA loan, it just depends. So come and see us.
Yeah, and like I said, I still love the idea if I'm going out shopping. I mean, there's an avenue, Todd. I find a house that I like, and I know I want to build an ADU, so I'm going to finance it all together at the same time. And then once I close escrow, the financing there is there for the ADU. Then it converts into a traditional conventional loan. Once you're done, there's just a lot of great. There's a lot of creativity you can do, and for our team, we've been spending a lot of time with Justin and Jonathan over this, and so Justin's got just a tremendous wealth of knowledge. If you're even interested in ADU, if you got clients that are interested in ADUs, but I think they're huge talking points right now. It's a huge talking point. We all know a lot of people in downtown Phoenix that have got some big yards. And they just don't know that a lot of these restrictions have been relaxed a little bit. Because like I said, Todd, as you know, 3 years ago, it was almost impossible to get one.
This is even a great alternative to you got a stale listing on the market. And it's just it's a more expensive home. Maybe call it $1.5 million or $1.2 million, and you've got a yard large enough for an ADU to put a unit on to be able to take the advantage of the additional dollar per square foot, the additional square footage availability, the additional ability for people to utilize the home with larger families, which seems to be the problem today, and ultimately ends up putting you in a totally different price category than the rest of your neighborhood. And you're probably going to sell your home faster just because of the accoutrements, the value.
All right, so as promised, we have Jonathan's number on here. So this is where it gets really interesting, and I just want to be clear. I've had a few lengthy conversations with our designated broker about this, and we are in this situation. And Jonathan and I came up, well, Dwayne as well, came up with the concept of calling it an introductory fee, because I didn't want to call it a referral fee because it causes so much confusion. All we're doing with our clients is introducing them to RYS Development. I am not working in the confines of being a real estate agent, cruising contracts and so forth. It's like if I just, as Dwayne said, it'd just be like if you wanted to get a job at the car dealership. You can get paid for selling cars. And we'll go over a little bit later on some of the disclosures that Dwayne's excited about and wants us to talk about. But you guys have basically just 5 models ready to rock and roll. We've got the square footage, we've got the price, and then the introductory fee is what we can earn by introducing our clients to RYS Development. And I mean, it's pretty. It's bigger than a new build.
Yeah, it's almost a no-brainer.
So walk us through. Obviously, at this point, agents are going to want to call you and have this conversation with you. But I'm out and showing Todd and Lynn homes, and we get into this discussion. How does this handoff work?
So, for example, you refer me a client. Your client's interested in building an ADU. As long as they're genuinely interested, you don't really have to know much about it other than, okay, this is Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They want a 400 square foot 1-bedroom. What can you help me out with, or what can you tell them? And then it's really as simple as just handing that off. And if it's legitimate, if it closes, and you get your introductory fee, it's not really a whole lot of legwork involved there. We like to handle all that ourselves. But, it's really as simple as just like what I just said right there, a simple conversation.
Kind of like what you do if you wanted a pool in the backyard.
Exactly.
But we do. But Todd, we spent so many years. We've got clients that want to do a room addition or a custom home. Well, custom home where we should always be asking for a compensation, but even a pool and so forth. And a lot of agents have companies that they've referred for ADUs and Casitas, but this is an opportunity for us to,
totally
get paid for making the introduction.
I like the upfront perspective of 5 models. It's easy. The pricing, it's easy. The earnings are easy. The only thing that I see, which I'm sure Dwayne's all over, is just the requirement that we disclose we have additional income coming from that. But other than that, yeah. I think that now I do, Mike, you said something I want to make sure it lingers in everybody's mind, which is this May, and to your point, how much time you need, this may require you extend the inspection period, because commercial properties have like look periods where, the property doesn't engage until you've done all your due diligence. Residential properties are so much more cookie cutter that reality is people don't need, well, they should, but they don't take the time to do significantly more investigation, like, for instance, if they wanted to put a pool in after close. But this becomes part of the transaction, so to speak, almost, because you're doing this so it's under one loan package, and there's some additional pieces there. So is there any recommendation on approximately what type of inspection time you would need from the point in time of introduction to the point in time of being able to say to that person, yes, we've talked to the city, we can do this?
I would say just give me 7 days, really 7 business days.
Okay.
It doesn't take much.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, great. That can potentially change to not maybe having to extend. Just get them in touch with you earlier.
Yeah, and so Jonathan, with these prices, what am I looking at as far as what is the ADU coming with for that price? What are some things that we need to prepare for? In addition to, because I'm going to assume this is not including landscaping, this is just the structure. And then what comes in the ADUs that's custom, or not custom, but, that just comes with it.
Okay. So what's included basically, so obviously all the construction, we do 2x6 exterior construction, which is a little bit more than the 2x4 a lot of people like to use right now. So I think it adds to the durability and the life expectancy of the product. Also, we do standard 9-foot ceilings. I like that. Obviously, if you want to do bigger, higher ceilings, you're more than welcome to. But that's what's standard in our models. All appliances are included. We do stainless steel appliances. Only thing that's really not included would be like furniture. Yeah, I mean, we include the lighting, we include the paint, we include the flooring, we include like literally just you're ready to move into this place and just move your bed in. But everything else is included. Like I said, all the way to the certificate. Here you go.
So do consumers have the opportunity now? I understand this is I pretty much think the answer is going to be no. But in most new home construction, we sit there and we have to go to a design center and we have to pick the level of cabinets and things of this nature that might be similar to the property we own. How does that work?
So we actually have another deck page where we actually are able to send that out to the client. They can pick out what color cabinets they want. We can actually like show you, and you can feel them if you want. And also the same for the flooring, same for the paint, same for literally everything that we include in the house.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. There is Jonathan's phone number up there. I know. In January we're going to have you at the North Phoenix office meeting, and then you and I were going to start putting together some classes going around the different offices. For me, it's just a great conversation to start. It's just something else for me to have conversations with people, and it's just a great opportunity. So, all right, Jonathan, appreciate it.
Cool.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me.
All right, we'll leave it. Quote of the day. I'm quoting Oprah Winfrey. I'm just going to let everybody read it.
Yeah, while you're reading it, let me just also say this. There'll be no statistics next Monday, only because I'm on vacation.
We're off next Monday.
Yeah, there's no
Oh, we're
podcast.
off. Okay.
Todd was going to say there's no
podcast.
podcast next Monday, is what he was saying.
Big shout out to Big Oprah. Thank you for the quote of the day. Appreciate everybody joining us, going out and sell a home.